too. Okay, I'd like to call this meeting to order. This is a meeting of the Auburn School Committee, and this is the June 10th meeting. I would like to do a roll call attendance. Dr. Chamberlain?
I'm here, sorry.
That's okay. Mrs. Harrington?
Here.
Dr. McCrillis?
Here.
Mrs. Holloway?
Here.
Mrs. Kaufman?
Here.
Dr. Brunel?
Here.
Where's Vicky?
Here.
Dr. Hanfield?
Here.
Excellent. Welcome, everyone. Good afternoon. Dr. Brunel, do we have any special recognitions this afternoon?
We do not, Mr. Chair.
We do not.
Correct.
Do we have, I don't see any citizens here to comment. So we'll move on to the superintendent's report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So the first item in your packet, the MSBA, if you remember, they came back in January of 19 and did a post-occupancy pilot program. And they really came, if you'll recall, Auburn Middle School, when it first opened, had a variety of different challenges, mostly related to the HVAC system. And through the diligent efforts of Mr. Fahey, certainly, but also members of the Lima Pagano, Skanska, and Fontaine Brothers teams, we stayed at it and made sure that everything was up and running and doing so really well. So MSBA had this pilot project that they would come in and really try to assess the process. So in your packet from Cadmus, they put together the post-occupancy pilot report. And as you note in there, it made a number of different recommendations. So I share this with you because it was going to the board at the Mass School Building Authority. But I also share it with you because in many regards, it really gave critical evidence to the great work that Mr. Fahey does, as well as the work by the entire team. So I just wanted you to see that. I think it was really flattering. It had been a challenging period, making sure that everything was up and running as it should be. But special thanks to Mr. Fahey and everybody who was involved in doing that. So just wanted to pass that along.
Excellent. Thank you.
The next item is the annual review of updates to the handbooks for the upcoming school year. And one thing that I would say, as I noted in this report, if any additional updates need to be made. So as we know, as of today, right now, June 10th, we do not yet know when students will return to school and in what fashion. So once that guidance does eventually come in, if there's anything that needs to be added into the handbook to address that in any way, Dr. Hanfield and Dr. Chamberlain will come back to you with those. But at this point, it is my recommendation that you approve the updates, which really have to do with pagination, staffing, dates, and the like. It is my recommendation you approve those.
I would entertain that motion.
I'll make that motion to approve the updates to each school's handbook for the 2021 school year.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? Roll call vote. Mrs. Harrington?
Yes.
Dr. McCrillis?
Yes.
Mrs. Holloway?
Yes.
Mrs. Kaufman?
Yes.
And Mr. Scobie, yes. It is a vote. Thank you.
Great, thank you. So the next item on the list, I'd actually like us to table that until our next meeting. This is actually the partnership program regarding the advanced placement coursework. And in one of our recent communications, and I just did not follow back up with Dr. Hanfield and Dr. Chamberlain, we originally had this on as a potential reduction. So I do want to follow up with them and we'll add it to the next meeting if that's okay with you.
Sure.
Sounds good to me. Any objections?
No.
Nope. Nope.
Seeing none.
And then the next item that's always a great pleasure to announce. So the Chamber of Commerce, as they have done annually for numerous years, now totaling over $325,000 in total, announced their recent scholarship awards. So the first young woman, Anna Peisch, is an Auburn resident, but attends Holy Name High School. But we certainly offer our congratulations to her. But students from Auburn High include Maura Anish, Grace Beauregard, Julia Benvenuti, Carly Hayes, Haley Norris, Ali Schoenfeld, and Nigel Belgrave. So congratulations to each of them for earning these scholarship awards. And just wanted you to be aware, and letters of congratulations were actually mailed to all of them today, including Anna as an Auburn resident.
Excellent. Congratulations.
That's very nice of the Auburn Chamber of Commerce to keep our students in mind and over all these years. That's really amazing that they've given that much money.
It is, agreed.
Yeah, absolutely. That's great.
Yep, year after year, they come through. Thanks so much. And we now move on to unfinished business.
So the next item, as you know, we continue to hear and read, as do you, that the FY21 budget is anticipated to be a very challenging one. And in working with the leadership team, we put together 2 contingency plans, namely the first one being up to 3 furlough days, and the second one being up to a full year's salary freeze, that these salaries of those individuals who remain in the same position for FY21 would stay at their FY20 rate. And I am thrilled to share that as of this morning, we have unanimous support from everybody in the
Why
office
does it look like this?
was asked for this. So I think, as I said to the team when I emailed them this morning, mid-morning, to thank them, I just think it speaks, and Mr. Scobie, Mr. Chair, you alluded to this last week in the meeting, that it really speaks to the tremendous commitment to team that all of the individuals really demonstrated. So, as I said to them, they are taking a bit of a leap of faith in agreeing to these, because currently, as of today, June 10th, we do not know what the state or federal budget, if there's going to be any monies coming in from the federal government. And the state has not yet shared what monies they may be able to provide or will be able to provide to communities. So it is the hope of the current leadership team and the future one, or the intention, I should say, that Dr. Hansel will continue to work with all of the individuals who have signed on, that once those numbers are known, to make decisions with their input that ultimately are in best interest of the Auburn Public Schools overall, but first and foremost for its students, because, as I've said, and as I indicated in the communication, the written communication that went out on Friday, but there was a week of meetings that took place, multiple ones that went out, that it really is about making sure that the team is in place when the students return, because they will be needed for sure. So I wanted to pass that along, and truly my sincere thanks to everybody on the team for making such a huge commitment, quite honestly.
Absolutely. Can't say enough. Any comments?
I'm just so glad they all did that. That just speaks to the caliber of the people that we have here working in Auburn. And I thank them with all my heart.
Absolutely.
Oh, sorry, Meg, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, I mean, all you hear about are all these layoffs in all these other districts. And it's so nice to know that our team came together for each other and for the kids of the town to make sure that when we come back, they get everything they need. It's amazing. It proves what a great town we have.
And Ms. Coffin, did you have something? I think you're muted.
Yeah, sorry about that. Through the chair, I did, first of all, want to thank everybody for coming together to do that, but also I hope that this will work towards allaying some of the fears. I know initially we were hearing from teachers that they, were still uneasy about whether or not, layoffs were really coming and this was just a stopgap. So hopefully through them unanimously voting in favor of this will kind of propagate a different message that, we want you here. We're doing everything we can to avoid any reduction in force, period. So hopefully that, will resonate with them as well.
Agreed.
Well said. Okay.
And one other thing that I do want to share, and I was, very honest, particularly with the AEA, because we have 38 members of our teaching staff who are considered to have not yet have professional status. And without these two agreements, I would be here recommending to you today to provide Dr. Hanfield and Dr. Chamberlain with as much flexibility as I think they very well may need with this budget, that we would be doing non-renewal notices to all 38, because it's really impossible today to decide exactly what you're going to need in terms of teaching staff, because I think you need to know what monies are going to come in from the state and federal government. And due to this coming through, that will not need to happen, which is a true kudos to everybody here in Auburn. As I shared with the leadership of the AEA, the contract does allow for RIFs, for reduction in force, if by some strange reason, and I have to believe that financial support will come in from the federal government around this issue, if there were needed to be any layoffs, so long as we follow the contract language, which says it must be temporary employees first, then must be non-professional status, those who've worked with us for less than 4 years, and then professional status. But if that were to happen, I think it would be very selective and not many at all, if any were needed at all. And that's really what this has been tried to do. Really, the goal around this whole thing from the start was, to the absolute degree possible, to not need to lay anybody off, because our kids are going to need every single person when they come back, for sure, for sure. So, a very good day for us here in Auburn.
Yes, it is.
I agree.
And it
Absolutely.
goes to say, we don't have 38 people that are just fluff.
Mhm.
Every one of those people is necessary to our system to succeed.
100%
Absolutely.
agree.
Yeah, through the chair, I agree with what Gail just said. And they're all making sacrifices across the board. And I think it's just heartwarming, and thank them all very much. They're all very important. So great that we can keep them all.
And through the chair, I do intend to schedule, I just wanted to share this news with you first, and to hopefully do so tomorrow, just trying to find time within the schedules to bring back for a very large Google Meet, the leads of all of the different bargaining groups, as well as those on individual contracts, to thank them personally for having, whether they spoke to their members or on their own decided to do so. And I will certainly pass along your thanks to them as well, which I know will be greatly, greatly appreciated.
Great.
So the next item under unfinished business is regarding the field closure. So I just wanted to share with you, I don't know if you had the opportunity, the guidance from the state on this, the reopening plan, us now being in step 1 of phase 2, does speak to some easing of the guidelines. So I did want to share with you, I did include an article, I think that was from the town of Concord, in your packets. School campuses in Concord reopen, just as an FYI. But I also did check with the town, because we were outreached by them and asked that this be put on the agenda. So just to share with you, and I had this in writing from Town Manager Jacobson, I got just a short time ago. So tennis courts at Lemansky are open now. The basketball courts, they were checking with the Board of Health, but the nets will go back up. And, but if they receive any complaints or concerns that the guidance is not being followed on the fields or courts, they will close them. The the playgrounds are open, and the fields are open for practices, but no permits are going to be issued for games. And that any youth league using them must follow the guidelines. And I believe I included for you the guidelines in the packet. It's countless pages long. So I just bring it to you just to be sure that we are doing as you wish around the fields issue.
Through the chair, did that come in the same email with everything else, or was it separate?
The email from Town Manager Jacobson through the chair.
Yeah, with the guidelines. I'm just looking for it.
So I believe what would have been included in the packet, it was titled, it has the seal of Massachusetts at the top, and says workplace safety and reopening standards. I believe it was included in the packet that would have gone on probably on Monday.
Okay.
Phase 2, it's dated June 3rd, but went into effect, I believe, at least for the town, they started it just as of Monday, the 8th. And I can certainly send this to you again, if it wasn't in there, or send it to you. And I can also send to you what the town is doing. We do have our next meeting scheduled for Tuesday, June 16th. So certainly if you wanted to put it off until then, you certainly could, but I wanted to be sure to bring it to you.
Through the chair, it may have come from Elaine, actually, because she sent
Oh,
a
okay.
follow-up email with in the article. I think it was the Concord article. And it may
Okay.
have been with that, but I'm not sure.
Okay.
My
Through the-
thoughts on
Go ahead.
this,
Go
on
ahead,
op-
Gil.
on opening the fields are, if it's okay, it seems to be okay now with the governor's plan. I mean, I'll go along with whatever everyone else wants, but it seems to me that we ought to unlock the gates and let the people in, because we've got so many people that disregard the guidelines. They've been jumping the fences, they've been ruining some of the fences. And I mean, maybe if we open the gates, the honest, decent people of Auburn that are law abiding will have a chance to use the fields they pay for. That's just my thought.
Through the
I-
chair, I agree with Gail 100%. I think that if Lemansky's open and the governor is easing restrictions, then I'm all for easing our restrictions as well.
Through the chair, I agree.
Through the chair, I guess I just have one question regarding non-compliance. How do we want to address that? And I ask that because I've already gotten several calls, and this isn't even about our field. This is about large groups or families showing up to Lemansky without masks, playing on the playground, kids like, rough and tumble. Basically, there's no distancing, no masks, no adherence to the guidelines. So my question is really, do we care? Are we trying to enforce that, or what do we want to do in the event that no one is adhering to it?
I don't know. I feel like we need to let it go, honestly.
And
We
that's
can't
fine,
put
maybe it
bans
is.
on, so I don't know. I think it's very difficult to enforce it.
So then to whom would we refer these people, I guess, that are fussing?
I understand those concerns, Dorothy, and I would echo the sentiments of the rest of the board. I don't know that we're gonna ever have the kind of oversight that we would need to get people to wear masks, to get people to follow the guidelines. They're not gonna be doing it before or after they get to the field. So likely there are gonna be some that aren't doing it when they get to the field. But as Gail said, I drove through this morning as I was killing some time waiting for my son to get out of an appointment. And there were a few ladies a little bit older than me walking around the outside of the field. And as Gail said, they really shouldn't be having to walk up and on off the curbs and sidewalks to go around the fields while there's other people who are able to jump the fences getting on the fields. My big thing before was during phase one, it was a total shutdown. That stuff wasn't supposed to be happening. So if we can follow those guidelines, as far as policing goes, I don't know that we're going to get people to follow those guidelines. My bigger concern, since as I said, they're going to be doing it before and after they leave the field anyway, so we can't save them all. And if our residents are uncomfortable being around that, then unfortunately they're going to have to leave, or they're going to have to ask those people to leave. My bigger concern is the wear and tear on the fields. My concern before was we don't have people on staff. We don't have teachers and staff out there daily. And that holds true now. So I just like to know what kind of oversight we would have as far as keeping the bicycles and the strollers and just sort of the things that are going to ruin the fields. How are we going to address that? We've already found that it was difficult for Mary Ellen, Mr. Fahey, and it actually took Andy Salukis with a little bit of prodding to get someone off the field. So it's going to be very difficult to do, but that's my concern, is wear and tear on the fields. And if it's a matter of safety as far as the virus goes, I guess we're gonna have to put that back in the hands of the people who are on the fields.
Yep, okay, fair enough.
Through the chair, can we put up a few signs like I've seen at other places, like practice social distancing or whatnot, as a reminder. And then, I think there's a lot of honest people out there.
Maybe a sign that says no bicycles or no strollers on the track. So in big letters.
So through the chair, just as we did, or just as I did when you had decided to close the fields, I would plan to put together a notification that went to all of Auburn. We could certainly put it in the Auburn News, in the Auburn Mass Daily, and on our Facebook page too, and list on there all of the guidelines that, as we understand it, the social distancing, the masks and all of those, to request that people do follow those, and reminder about no bikes and strollers on the field. But I do think, and I think too, that it's a responsibility, just as you said, Mr. Chair, that these were paid for by the taxpayers of Auburn. So that if anybody is down on the field and sees somebody with a bike or a stroller, that if we all do our part to say, you can't have a bike or a stroller here, and I think we can put up signs and things. And then hopefully, the vast majority of people, I hope, will be honest, particularly those who live in town. But I think if you see somebody who isn't, I think you need to remind them, to follow those rules. But we are limited in the oversight that we have, quite honestly.
Absolutely. And I won't be keeping as close of an eye on the field for the masks and for the safety precautions, because it drove me a little bit crazy the first time around. And I know that things are really starting to open up now. So, and people are starting to ignore a little bit more and more each day. So I'll turn a blind eye to that. Again, it's just the vandalism that I don't like.
Through the chair, I have a question. Do we know if Pappas is open?
It is,
Okay.
yes, it is. To the chair.
Yeah, Pappas is hopping. Okay, I would entertain a motion to rescind.
I'll make a motion to,
Or amend, I'm sorry.
I actually think, if through the chair, if I might suggest, that the motion be to open the fields and playgrounds of the Auburn Public Schools in compliance with Phase 2 as outlined by Governor Baker.
Perfect. You want
I'll
to
make that
motion?
yeah.
Do I have a second?
And I'll second that motion.
Any further discussion? Okay, roll call vote. Mrs. Harrington,
Yes.
Dr. McCrillis,
Yes.
Mrs. Holloway,
Yes.
Mrs. Kaufman,
Yes.
and Mr. Scobie, yes, it is a vote. Thank you.
And then finally, under unfinished business, the APS return to school team. So just a couple of quick updates. So I believe it was Friday evening, Commissioner Riley sent out an email notification with some recommended personal protective equipment that schools should consider purchasing in anticipation when school resumes. That information, as we came to understand, I think it was probably yesterday at some point, or perhaps on Monday, it started to become widely shared via the media and perhaps social media, that was an indication that schools were going to open in much the same fashion as they would in a typical year. We then received, and I think that was an understandable assumption that some people made, quite honestly. We then received through the MASS a communication from Commissioner Riley, and really warning everyone that they should not read too much into what was being recommended for purchase. Now, guidelines have come out regarding summer programming, and they are very specific and extremely thorough. So we are really giving serious consideration to potentially bringing in some students for whom remote learning has really been a challenge, and those will be some of our most special kids, quite honestly, in some of our specialized programming, and that's all being worked out. Mrs. Reedy is leading that. She's working directly with parents and families. But we do not yet have guidance from the commissioner nor the governor on schools reopening when that will be and what exactly it will look like. They certainly have suggested some things, but there's no official guidance. But as shared with you a couple of meetings ago, we have established an APS return to school team because we're anticipating that the guidance that is received is probably going to be from a fairly high level, but there will need to be some specific decisions made more locally. So once again, tremendous amount of support and interest that we received. So we sent this email out and 87 people, actually it's more than that, it's probably about 95 because I didn't include all the leadership between staff and parents expressed interest, 46 staff and 41 parents. So Dr. Chamberlain, Dr. Hanfield, and I met recently and looked to make sure that we provided or created a team, I should say, that had representation from the various schools and departments. So there is now a team of 32 people, all of whom have been notified. The first meeting of the team will be Monday, June 15th at 3 o'clock. I anticipate being at that meeting and getting things started for the team and trying to ground the work. Now, we do have a call with the commissioner on Friday, so we are uncertain whether we will get that specific guidance on Friday. But irregardless, we're going to start our work here locally. And we have been, and by we, I mean us as leadership team members, have been starting to get outreached by some parents on both sides of the issues. Some that are advocating for a full return to school, students being in all day, every day, and others expressing concerns about their child even having the capacity to wear a mask if that's required for the full day. And still others saying that they're not ready to send them back, so that homeschooling may be an option. And what we've been trying to message to families in a consistent way is understand the concerns. We have them too. We don't have the guidance, but until we have that, to just wait and actually the work of this APS team, I think one of the first things that they're probably going to do is start to survey families to find out their levels of comfort in terms of, sending their child to school, continuing remote learning at home. And we don't know how much flexibility we're going to have until we get the guidance. And even sending their children on the bus. What I can tell you is we continue to get in numerous bus applications. They're still inputting those now. The deadline is June 12th for those. But based on that, the indications would certainly seem to be strong that people are going to send their children on the bus. But again, I just wanted to emphasize to fill you in. I know Dr. McCrillis and Mrs. Harrington will be on that committee, so we'll have this as a regular agenda item. But just tremendous kudos to the way that we received such an overwhelming response. I think nearly 90 people wanting to be part of a committee that talks about this, I think speaks to the commitment that everybody has. So just wanted to thank you, and certainly more to follow on that.
Through the chair, thank you for clarifying. I think there's a lot of misinformation that's floating around. I'm sure everyone on this committee has gotten the questions or the outrage or what have you. So thank you for that. If there is a one call that's going to go out for other things, it might be worth throwing kind of what you just said into that as well, because I think everyone latched onto the summer plan and said, that's it. This is what we're doing for the first 12 weeks of school in September. This is it.
Right.
At least from the feedback that I've gotten, I think there's a lot of
No, and through the chair, when we had our daily leadership team check-in this morning, and I had mentioned to them that my intention was to put together an update for the entire community through an email, one call, to that very point, I think, Mrs. Coffin, because I think there is great concern, and I wouldn't really call it a misunderstanding. I think that the messaging may have been a bit confusing, quite honestly, for people. So I have not drafted that yet, but I do intend to get that out. And hopefully today, perhaps that with the field update might be appropriate for this afternoon, if not tomorrow morning, for sure.
Okay, thank you.
I don't know if you're aware, but there was a thing on the news this week from the Oxford Public Schools showing
Yeah.
their plan.
Oh,
And they had a plan A and a plan B, and one was alternating weeks for the students, and the other one was they alternated Fridays. They went Monday, Wednesday, Tuesday, Thursday, alternated Fridays. So a lot of people might think that's what everybody's doing.
mhm.
And I mean, it was just Oxford's suggested plan.
Sure. And through the chair, as we have these calls, a lot of different ideas have been put out there because one of the concerns, if we're required to continue, and this is an if, making sure that students are 6 feet apart or making sure that they're not gathering in groups of more than 10, obviously that poses a real challenge. So some of the ideas that you mentioned, Mrs. Holloway, from the Oxford schools are similar to things that have been mentioned as potential options. But again, I think that we'll continue to take a wait and see approach. And hopefully, I have to believe the guidance is going to be forthcoming very soon. Only that school is letting out. Our students' last day is Friday, but most school districts in the area only have but maybe another week or so before they're out as well. So as soon as we know, hopefully I'll have some information to share in the 60s.
Through
Thank
the
you.
chair, I just have one other question slash request for this first reopening meeting, and it would be to, I guess, think about guidelines around how we would accept kids who do end up going to homes or attempting to do homeschool. Let's say there's another issue where they want to do half year homeschool. If we think that's going to be a large percentage of, or not even large, but just way more than we usually see, I think it would certainly be worth putting some guidelines around what it would take to get them back into Auburn public schools and having that available before parents would even make a decision on that.
Right.
Just
Good idea.
because that is certainly a thing we're hearing a lot of. So
Okay, good. Thank you.
The chair, there's like school psychologists on the committee, right? That's my big concern with ideas when we go back.
I know we do have, through the chairs, I'm sorry to cut you off, Dr. McPhillis. I know that we have at least a counselor on there. I don't remember specifically. So I can pull it up here. Pretty
Yeah, I
easy.
believe Terry O'Donnell's on there.
Yep,
Okay, perfect.
She's
Yeah.
guidance.
yeah, she is.
I just know regardless, we're gonna have some psychosocial stuff going on with these kids. So with being out of school as long as they have been, with some kids anyway.
Agreed.
And through the chair, I've been getting a ton of people's input on how we move forward and what we should do. And I think we need to make it very clear that there will be a new normal. I think everybody really wants to push for the old way of life and just send the kids back and off we go. But I think it needs to be stressed that the school committee can take action, but we are still at the mercy of the governor. And I just think that people need to be patient and we need to take baby steps. I don't think it's something we can rush back into. So it's
Agreed.
just my input, my 2 cents.
Mhm.
through the chair, you're right, Jesse, because ultimately the stakes are too high.
All right.
Death is a pretty high stake. So.
So are you saying that the Facebook petition to throw away all masks is not going to have any bearing on how we vote?
Correct.
Okay,
And
so-
oh, sorry, George.
No, go ahead.
For people to compare the petitioning and the marches to, well, we should be able to put our kids back in school. I think we just need two completely different avenues of thought. And I think to merge the two of those things together and say, well, it's fine now, everything's fine, is crazy. So I think we just need to slow it down and I don't know. Go ahead, George.
So you're saying that we should just tell them it's okay for their kids to protest, but not to come back to school. All right, I got
No, I'm saying the opposite. I don't think that's appropriate either, but
I know, I get what you're saying. I'm just kidding. Dr. Brunel, you have the utmost confidence in the Department of Ed. I don't know where that's coming from, but I would expect a very confusing layout, probably about 2 weeks before school is supposed to start.
Well, through the chair, I am one of those glass half full people, admittedly. They will put that on my tombstone, I hope. But I just think that, you know, the amount of time and planning and energy that is going to need to go into doing this the right way. And I go back to the two contingencies, because I think that just spoke to our commitment to trying to be as proactive as possible, so we're not being reactive and trying to make decisions that we don't have all the information for. I have to believe that, you know, hopefully on Friday, I will say in a recent communication with the commissioner, he came out, I think those of us on the call found him to be rather boldly making statements around what, he didn't say exactly what would be, but that once outlined, districts would need to submit a plan that could convince him to not go along with that. So we are to the point that Mrs. Harrington was making, until we get that guidance from the state. And I think it sounds like all of you are being contacted by parents, understandably with concerns, and some of them have outreached us too. So all the more important for me to get that communication out to families, just to try and clarify that we still do not have the answer about school starting, but we are going to start our work, and that we're going to keep everybody apprised as that work and those decisions and questions start to be known, and that answers can be answered, and to share that too.
and through the chair, as part of the working group that starts on Monday, just, you know, I completely am aware that parents need the kids in schools in order to do their jobs. So I think that is the biggest concern that I've heard, is that childcare is not available. So we will definitely be taking that into account in this process.
And to that point, if I may, Mr. Chair, just add that we were recently notified that the Auburn Rec and Culture will not run a childcare program this summer, nor will AYFS. And both of those really are in direct response to the guidelines that are required, and those organizations' inability to believe that they can actually adhere to all of them that are being required. So in our summer programming, I hope I'm not taking your thunder. I don't think I am, Dr. Chamberlain. The summer programming, I think that she shared, that's normally in-house, will be done remotely as well, except for some small pockets of the extended school year programming on a limited basis.
Through the chair, and I'm hoping that, you know, at the state level, they'll come out slightly early and not wait until the very end of the summer. I can think of myself even thinking, do I want to go back to work full time, or should I take the year, not knowing? And I'm sure there are a lot of parents with that thought, or, you know, God forbid, a family that can't do it with just one salary, trying to figure this out. So I'm hopeful that the commissioner will be cognizant of that and come out with things on the earlier side. I get that it's a pandemic, but and you can't really know. We don't know when a vaccine is coming out, but we also need to work with families. And I get it, how scary it is to know what you're going to do with your kids next year, and what's best for them, and psychosocially what's best for them as well.
Mm-hmm. Agreed.
Anything else?
Not under unfinished business, Mr. Chair.
Okay, we move on to new business.
So if I may, just wanted to make you aware and hopefully get your vote in support. So I have shared with you, obviously, and gotten your guidance via executive session regarding the custodian's contract. I am happy to report that late yesterday, I received notification that they did ratify that contract. Just as a quick overview, it includes COLA increases of 2% in each of the next 3 years. It does add in longevity payments for those who have been with us in 5-year increments in up to 25 years, and a modest increase in the amount that they can use for gear, work boots and such, to successfully complete their job. And then the final piece was $1,500 that's been added. It's available for the group in total to attend some nightlife classes to really try and enhance their skills, which would pay a big return to us. So that's something brand new, and hopefully some will take advantage of that. So it is my recommendation that you approve the custodian's contract as negotiated.
Entertain that motion.
I'll make the motion to approve the custodian's contract as negotiated.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
Through the chair, is there any, or are there any provisions in the contract for any type of overtime? And I'm just asking specifically because we might be required to do additional cleaning.
Mhm.
So if you sort of mind refreshing my memory on what's included.
Sure. So through the chair, we actually keep a line in our budget for any overtime needs. Certainly we bring them in to do snow removal, but they are paid at time and a half to come in for anything beyond 40 hours. So that is in there, and there was no change to that in this contract.
Good.
Okay, thank you.
I think we need a vote.
I think we need a second.
I think just roll.
Yeah, just roll call.
Okay. I actually think Mr. Scobie's screen may be frozen.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, he hasn't moved in a couple minutes.
Okay.
Let's hope he's okay.
For once, he's silent.
Really hard.
There he is.
Deep in thought.
Leaving us alone.
Sorry, I'm fading in and out. Not me, but the internet.
Yeah.
I'm gonna get a little closer.
We're getting a tour of.
I know. Like Blair Witch.
Sorry.
Sorry.
All right. So we had a second, we had some discussion.
Yeah, we're just waiting on you. That's it.
All right. All in favor?
Don't we have to do a roll call vote?
Oh, yes, we do. I'm sorry. I'm all discombobulated from coming downstairs. My heart's racing. I'm out of breath.
Dave the witches.
Yeah.
But no, thank you to all involved in those negotiations. Thanks to the custodians for coming to the table and getting it done. Much appreciated. Seems like it's a good contract. So now, roll call vote. Ms. Harrington,
Yes.
Dr. McCrillis,
Yes.
Ms. Soloway,
Yes.
Ms. Kaufman,
Yes.
and Mr. Scobie, yes. It is a vote. Thank you. Is that all we have under new business?
It is, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
All right. And we now move on to teaching and learning. Dr. Chamberlain?
Hi, everyone. Nice to see you all. Just if I can just make one comment about the return to school team, because it does seem that there are so many things that are unknown. But in preparation for that, there will be another survey going out to families around remote learning. Now that we're kind of at a different phase in all of that, to gather more information about their experience that may help us should we have to continue that route. And we're also in the process of creating a second survey for staff related to their experience as educators in that environment, what they feel they might need related to professional development, to materials, to any of those kind of things. So even though we're really not sure what lies ahead, thinking that probably there may be still a component of remote learning, we're trying to get ahead of that as best we can at this point with the information we have. So I just wanted to share that as well. The information we're sharing with you today is around the CPI restraint training. For a number of years, we have used ANV, which is Applied Nonviolence, and that's training that's provided primarily to our ABA staff, but there are also teachers and administrators that are trained in this. In the event that we have to, the final phase in all of this kind of training is an actual restraint training, but how you would conduct a restraint. But really what the important part of it is how do you de-escalate a situation so you don't get to that point? So the A&B training has served us well for a number of years, but we were finding it was difficult to get some of the training needed for the trainer to recertify and that kind of thing. And we didn't want to get kind of tied up with that. So Jessica Pizzolidis, the assistant principal at Swiss, was already a trainer for CPI, a certified trainer. And we looked into it a bit, and it does seem that it fits the Auburn Public Schools a bit better than A&B. It gives us some more flexibility around being able to provide some of the training via an online platform, which so for right now is really good. But it also places heavy emphasis on de-escalation to a greater degree than A&B provided to us. And these de-escalation strategies, so you don't have to have a CPI certification to get the de-escalation training. And it's very in-depth, and so we hope that as this unfolds, we're going to be able to train every staff member in the de-escalation strategies, and then have that targeted group of folks that would get the more in-depth physical kind of training that might be required because of their position. So it says here Renee Gollin, that is her maiden name. Renee Hosegood is one of our staff members who we also had trained earlier in the year prior to COVID coming along, thinking that this would roll out much easier than it may. But so we have 2 certified folks. This is training. They can do their online recertification very easily. And I think it provides us with a lot more flexibility while also providing better resources for our staff and the trainers. So we are going to provide the ABAs with the online portion of the training before they leave for vacation, because they get 3 days of professional development after school closes. So part of that will be the online training, and then when appropriate, they'll receive the actual physical component of this with either Jessica or Renee. So really, I think a great step to give us some flexibility in this area and make sure we're doing all the right things.
Excellent.
Sounds good.
Is that all you had, Dr. Chamberlain?
It is.
Thank you for that. And now we move on to the bright spot in everyone's day, business and financial. Where's Vicky?
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. I have a very short report for you today, but in your packet, I provided a year-to-date budget report and a list of omnibus transfers, both of them dated June 8th, 2020. I continue to work closely with Dr. Brunel, Dr. Hanfield, Dr. Chamberlain, and the leadership team in working to close out the FY20 budget. The business office is diligently working on closing out all open purchase orders and getting all of our invoices paid. Also, I'm working with CFO Kasanovic on getting the new budget for FY21 inputted into Munis and getting that ready so that we can get our secretaries working on getting supplies and requisitions posted for the new year. But that's basically where I'm at with business and financial, and I'd be happy to answer any questions if you have any.
Are there any questions for Ms. Wisbicki?
Sounds good.
No, thank you for that report.
All right,
I have
thank you very
no
much.
Questions. And do we need an executive session, Dr. Brunel?
You do, Mr. Chair, yes. As noted on the agenda, if someone wants to read that.
Okay, I would entertain that motion.
I will make a motion to enter into executive session per Mass General Law, Chapter 30, Section 21A2, to conduct strategies for negotiations with non-union personnel, namely Director of Food Service and Assistant Vocational Coaches.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Roll call vote, Mrs. Harrington?
Yes, but I did not get the link for the executive session.
I don't think
And-
that's one.
I don't-
I would-
There you go.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you.
Thank you.
It
So,
could
yes.
be a little bit. Okay.
Okay, when I get the link, yes.
Yes, as well. When I get the
Ms.
link.
Holloway,
Yes.
Mrs. Kaufman,
Yes.
and Mr. Scobie. Yes, it is a vote. Good afternoon, everyone.